Hey, what's up, guys? This is Jay from COI, and I just wanted to briefly talk about the left and how the left cannibalizes itself over and over and over again. And so I was on Twitter, and I happened to see all this hatred for Cenk Uygur. He's running for representative in California 2020, and so many people were putting him through this purity test. And it was really ridiculous because it did range from moronic to fairly serious. And the serious stuff I will validate, I get. The moronic stuff, though, which took majority of the triggered people, were jokes that he made a long time ago. There was stuff about a mother and daughter porn star team and bestiality, even. But they were jokes, and you can easily tell they were jokes. In fact, I blame these people who are offended for the show not being funny anymore. No offense to the Young Turks, but they're not funny. That show, I listened to those old clips. This is way before I had heard of them. It was actually kind of funny, but I get why they're not anymore, because people are too easily triggered. And in fact, those people are why comedy's dying. Anyway, the one major concern that came up was the Armenian genocide and the name Young Turks. Those two things aren't great, and I will not die on the hill of keeping the show the name Young Turks. Number one, I just don't think many people get it. If you hear Jank defend his stance on it, it's because if you look up the term Young Turk, the first thing it does come up is a young revolutionary group. But it is really closely associated with the Armenian genocide as well. And knowing that, I probably wouldn't keep it. It's a bad look, especially for people you who he has denied the genocide of quite a long time ago, in fact. But it doesn't matter how long ago it was. The important thing about it was that he did deny the Armenian genocide and has since over a decade, multiple times, apologized and recanted his stance on that. And I think that's important. If he hadn't, I wouldn't be defending him. If he still believed that, then he could go fuck himself. But he has multiple times um, apologized and completely disavowed his statements about that. And so I asked the question to people who feel like he didn't pass a purity test. Can you not forgive him? Can people not change? Is that really the world we're in? Because the one thing you can't deny is that Cenk Uygur is a progressive. He believes in progressive ideology. He is a populist politician, at this point, politician. And that's what we want, right? You also can't deny what the Young Turks has done for the progressive movement. You may not always agree with them. In fact, you might be more of a Sam Cedar person or a David Pakman person or whoever. But you still can't deny what the Young Turks has done. And you can't deny that Cenk is incredibly passionate about the things that he believes in, and that he would fight for every person he's representing, and that he's changed. He's made some pretty horrible comments in the past, but he has changed. I bring that up, namely, because while they're bashing Cenk, they don't realize the people he's running against still believe a lot of horrible things, and will still fight for the corporations to squash you. And I think that in itself goes beyond just this election with Cenk Uygur into the bigger election, as we can see that people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are just held under a super fine microscope by the left. Now, look, am I 100% for Warren? No. And in fact, some of the things that Warren is coming out with more and more, I do disagree with. But the fact is, I would rather have Warren than Biden. I mean, it's not everything, but I would still rather have her than Buttigieg. And by attacking her, I'm only going to help Buttigieg. I'm not going to be helping Bernie. And that's one thing we have to understand. As there is this like internal catfight, let's look at who we're hurting and who we're helping. A shot against Warren or Tulsi Gabbard is a shot that's going to affect Bernie as well. Um, as where if you go after Booker or Kamala Harris, it's going to hurt the establishment side. But we, for some reason, seem to grab people and put them through this purity test where we strangle them to death and then we cry that we have someone like Donald Trump in office. We need to unify and get behind our candidates. And again, last time I will say this, I only believe and back and support Cenk Uygur because he has disavowed the horrible things he said, because he has changed. And I think that's part of being a human. And I think we have to start setting these timelines when people can come back from things they've said. And the most important thing to remember with Cenk is he's the one who called himself out. No one else called him out. He exposed himself and apologized way before most people had ever even heard of him. It's pretty important in that. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. And I feel like as we're on the left, we've got to start supporting each other. When you see a progressive, you work with a progressive. Stop trying to find out who the hip progressive is, who's the OG progressive, who's the really cool progressive, who's the Jimmy Dore of the group, so to speak. Who cares? As long as they're progressive, let's get behind that at least for now. We can destroy ourselves later, but let's worry about destroying capitalism. I shouldn't have said capitalism. The oligarchy in capitalism before we worry about destroying ourselves. I mean, we are at a point where we might be at one of our last elections for presidency. Seems crazy, but it might be somewhere that we are nearing in. And if you pay attention to politics, you know what I'm talking about. So while we still do have a choice, let's get on the same team and fight the same enemy. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Have a great evening.